So I'm going to just open up an empty test file, and then I'm going to expand down onto the workspace and then function keys. And just to kind of show you the ones that we modified, the F4 choose none was done so that we can come out of an open roads geometry command where the right click won't actually stop a command. But that's not necessarily necessary with the changes that we made in our preferences under the input. We enabled the allow the escape key to stop the current command. I think teaching the users to use the escape key versus a program function key to stop a command makes more sense. So the ones that we really want to start with are the ones starting with F7 is the, you can see where we're calling the VBA from F7 through the F11 keys. The first one toggles on and off construction class. This is really something that you can do with MicroStation by going to the view properties, but the F7 key on and off, essentially toggle, will easily allow the user to make, for example, corridor graphics, template drops, etc., turn on and off just by toggling that F7 function key. The F8 key is useful. What it will do is to set the black background to white and also turn on the level override symbology. And if you press it a second time, it will take it back. And so that's useful if you're doing teaching or presenting and you need that white background and the level override symbology to show up. Again, it's a toggle. The F9 key sets up the three-dimensional view with an isometric rotation and the illustration mode. So when you're doing corridor design and you have your 2D opened up, you can press the F9 and it will set up your 3D model side by side. The F10 key and dither everything that's referenced in. For example, if I have my existing survey, all other kinds of reference files into a file, I press the F10 key. It essentially makes those to where they're somewhat transparent and not coming through as strongly on your screen. And it also makes your active file draw last on top of all of your references. And so it's a very good aid to making your reference files somewhat fade into the background and make them not so obtrusive. And again, it's a toggle, so it's an on or off type situation. The F11 key, even though it's programmed to analyze terrain model point, it also can do tracking along baselines, in other words, track stations and offsets. And then the F12 key will open the template library editor, which I use quite a bit. The other one that was modified, you can see here we have some Control F1 through Control F5. I don't use these very often, but they will set up particular settings within the view. You can take a look at those. And then the Shift F1 is something that you want to provide for the surveyors, especially where it can exaggerate the Z elevation, basically distort in the Z a referenced in empty model. So it can take your existing terrain, reference that into a dummy model, stretch the Z so that they can find problem areas in their survey and see those more visually. A couple other things here, if you want to see all the configuration variables that are running in your workspace, you can press Shift F11 and it'll make a log file of your variables. And then lastly, Shift F12 will delete unused fonts, and I'm going to actually devote an entire video to that particular topic, but just know that that is in these function keys from the examples workspace.